Now in this chapter we shall be reading what are the types of bonding. Now as we know that in case of bond, basically species approach each other such that their potential energy should be decreased and the stability should be increased. Now a bond between two species can be either physical in nature or it could be chemical in nature. Now we shall be dealing about the physical bonding and chemical bonding respectively. So let's start with the physical bonding. In physical bonding, when the species will be approaching each other, then there shall be no electronic involvement. Like if we talk of two H2 molecules, now when these two H2 molecules will be approaching each other for bonding, what we find that these two molecules will not undergo any kind of electronic loss or mutual sharing. Rather, these two species or molecule will be held to each other through a weak force whom we call as van der Waals force. So remember that whenever species approach each other and when there is no electronic involvement between the two and when they are held through a weak force called van der Waals force, then in that case we call the force to be physical force and the bond is called as physical bond. Now coming ahead to the chemical bond. In case of chemical bonding, we observe that electrons are involved between the bonding atoms. Like let us talk of Na and Cl. Now we know that the atomic number of sodium is 11 and that of chlorine is 17. So their configuration will be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6 and 3s1. For Cl we will have 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p5. Now we have dealt in the last section that every atom on bonding tries to acquire inert gas configuration, that is NH2 NP6 configuration. Here in case of sodium, the valence shell is 3s1, which is not as similar to that of NH2 NP6. So sodium will try to lose one electron such that its new configuration will become 1h2, 2s2, 2p6. Hence the outer shell, that is the second shell, has got 2s2 2p6 configuration which is resembling to NH2 NP6. Hence it will now attain inert gas or stable configuration. Similarly, in case of chlorine, we have got 3s2 3p5 which is not resembling to NH2 NP6 configuration. So basically Cl will gain one electron from sodium and its new configuration will become 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6. So here in the valence shell of chlorine we have got 3s2, 3p6 which is now again resembling to NH2 NP6 configuration. So it has attained stability. So here we are observing in case of NaCl that Na and Cl are held to each other by the loss and gain of one electron. That means in this case electrons have been involved and such a bond is called chemical bond. So we have dealt about a chemical bond. Remember, a bond between two species where the species are held through a strong interactive force, also we call the force to be a chemical force, is called a chemical bond. So basically in case of chemical bond, a strong force exists between the bonding species. And also remember that whenever we have got a chemical bond between the species, there must be electronic involvement. So we have mentioned in the note that electrons are involved during bonding in case of chemical bonds. As we have observed that in case of physical bonding, the species are held to each other through a weak bonding force which we call as van der Waals force. Now similarly, in case of chemical bonding, the species are held through a strong bonding force which we call as chemical force. So in case of a chemical bond, electrons are involved, hence species will be held to each other through a strong bonding force and the force will be called as a chemical force. So in physical bonding, no electrons are involved. In chemical bonding, electrons are involved. Second, in physical bonding, there will be weak bonding force between the species, that is van der Waals force, whereas in case of chemical bonding, we will be having a very strong bonding force, that is chemical force.